Yo, what's going on, Shuffle Squad YouTube? I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I'm Vulcan Turtle TCG, and I'm going to be running you guys through the top 8 decks from Late Night 74. Before I do, check out the description, hit up some of our sponsors. It supports the channel, and we truly appreciate it. Now, Late Night 74 was quite interesting. Here is that promised meta spread that I told you guys in the Late Night 72 video I was going to be doing for you guys with every video that I do covering the top 8 decks. And it's a really interesting kind of like shift here, right? Now, Lugia saw a significant amount of dip. Don't know why. Maybe there was just less players. Maybe players wanted to play something different for once because they didn't want to play the mirror. I'm not sure what the reason is, but it saw a very significant dip in playership there. Mew did see an increase. It makes sense. It's an extremely consistent list and very good. LZB and LZB Ray seeing a dip makes sense. It is a difficult deck to pilot, and sometimes you just want to play something a little bit more consistent, so totally understand there. Arc Duraludon also seeing a huge dip when it comes to playership, and I think that's because it has this stigma around it that, yes, Duraludon is extremely good because it can block a lot of the decks that are super powerful in the meta, Mew being one of them, Lugia being the other. However, it is known to brick very often, and maybe players just didn't want to deal with the brickage and wanted to go and play something a little more consistent. Goodra did see an increase along with Palkia and Inteleon, which, you know, the fact that Palkia and Inteleon is on this list is quite interesting because there is a lot of electric types in the format because they're trying to counter the Lugia Vstar. So when those players are playing those electric types, they're also just accidentally also taking out Palkia and Inteleons all day. So it's very interesting to see Palkia and Inteleon have such decent playership in these tournaments. And finally, I think the biggest spike in playership was the Reggie deck, which is a really fun deck. I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite lists in the standard format. So to see its playership go up, chef's kiss, chef's kiss. So let's get into the top 8 decks. For 8th place, we have Alex C's Mew Vmax. Now, this is a very standard, straightforward Mew Vmax. Has a lot of disruption with 3 judges, 2 bosses orders, but they do play 4 cross switchers, so a ton of gust ability. Silene and Pal Pad to get certain cards back, plus the Pal Pad to get Silene back, so that's good. We have 4 double turbos, which is extraordinarily standard for Mew Vmax that plays 2 Path. This is what is a lot of people are kind of like referring to this list as Path Mew because they play Path, kind of stall out the opponent, also kind of stall out themselves, but they have lost Vacuum, they have lost City, they have Forest Seal to find any of those cards to get rid of that Path that they put in play if it stays, so that's really good. The Lost City is also an extremely amazing card to have in a list like this, especially with Reggies seeing an increase in play. You can kind of get rid of those Reggies by targeting the ones that your opponent only plays 2 of, like Registeel, putting them in a Lost Zone and kind of stopping them from being able to build up any Reggies from that point forward. It's a really good list here. I very much like it. The Big Parasol is also very nice because in the Lugia matchup, you can kind of stall out the Yveltal, so really good there. Now, for the matchups that you had, Alex, it looks like that you did get the minimum 6-2-1 to get into Phase 2, but Phase 2 is where you really shined. You decided 3 straight wins, 1 loss, and then a win in round 14 was the perfect amount to get into Top Cut, so you did a fantastic job there. I want to comment on 2 important lists here. You beat Vikavolt not once, but twice. It was the same person, but Vikavolt is known to be a kind of hard matchup for the Mew list because Vikavolt does play Disruption. Mew also plays Disruption. So when you judge, you might not hit the cards you need, but you kind of stop your opponent from being able to dump their hand and drawing all those cards as the Vikavolt player. And it looks like to me, you did really good. Maybe you had judged and you had all 6 Pokemon out and then you just drew 2 and the 2 cards that you drew were just the perfect cards you needed in order to win the matchups. I don't know what the situation is, but you did a fantastic job there. I think that was probably like the hardest matchup for you. You did take a loss to Arceus Duraludon in round 13. That makes sense. It is a hard matchup because Duraludon does block Pokemon with those special energies, but playing 2 Path to the Peak, maybe you weren't able to get a Duraludon in range. And finally, in top 8, you lost the mirror against Mew Vmax. A lot of the times it does come down to who goes first and who hits what faster, but I think you did a fantastic job, so congrats on top 8. Next up, in 7th place, we have Christian Cruz's Lugia Vstar. This is a pretty standard, straightforward Lugia Vstar list. There are some variances here that are different from like the top level play Lugia that I'm sure a lot of you are used to. For instance, only 3 Archeops, and we do see a Professor Burnett here, so you can Lumineon going second, get Burnett, put 2 Archeops in the discard and start rolling from there. And Irida is also very nice here as well. I see a lot of Lugia lists starting to play Irida as well. It seems very favorable. A lot of the decks that play Lugia are playing Irida with something like Horn, Echoing Horn, but it seems like Echoing Horn is kind of shied away from the Lugia list just a little bit in favor for 2 Lost Vacuums, so you can still Yveltal for a knockout on Duraludon. So very interesting list here. I think one of the more interesting cards as well is I'm going to move this graphic over a little bit for you guys so you can see the Wash Energy hiding in the corner. Wash Energy isn't bad as well. You can use it on the Lumineon V so you can, loop it back into the deck, but I think one of the most important cards that this is for is the Manaphy. Now, Manaphy is a bench sitter, and it's a bench protector. It's known with a bench barrier type ability. So, with that being said, it doesn't protect itself from Sableye, and Sableye is seeing a ton of play, but that's where the Wash Energy does come in. It stops the Sableye from doing numbers to the Manaphy, keeps your bench kind of nice and clean. You know that Sableye can't just like set up the double knockout on Archeops too easily, as it does have 150 HP, so splitting it 60 between the 2 Pokemon leaves you with 30 left on each on those Archeops. So that's not a bad way to kind of like really get ahead of the Sableye matchup, where Stoutland can probably come up and clean out the rest of that Lost Zone deck. But honestly, Wash Energy isn't a bad call. It's just a very less seen call. So let's check out what your matchups were. It looks like your matchups were pretty interesting. You did have yourself a Vigavolt matchup twice, but one of them you did take the Tywist, so that way you can hit that minimum 6-1 to get into phase 2. When it came to phase 2, you got 3 straight wins, a loss in round 13 and a win in round 14, where you eventually got into top 8, taking a loss to Arceus Duraludon. Arceus Duraludon is an extremely hard list to beat sometimes. However, you did take a win against Arceus Duraludon in round 8 in phase 1, so it's not unheard of for these Lugia lists to actually still be able to knock out these Duraludons. It's not easy, but it's also not unheard of for them to take the win. So congrats to you on your finish. 6th place, we have Owen Dalgar with the other type of Lugia V-Star list. This is just the more standard, straightforward. You're going to see a lot of the top players playing this type of Lugia V-Star. You have the Dunsparce for the protection of weakness. You have the Manaphy, the Pumpkaboo to get rid of paths. A lot is going on here. Now, the difference between this and the other list is we see a Speed Lightning energy here. Speed Lightning is a very good card to have because you don't need to actually go all in on the Aurora energies for the Raikou. You can actually split between the two. You don't have to dedicate which Pokemon you're going to attack with. With this type of list and this type of energy spread, you can attack with both still. So that's very, very nice. Everything else here is very standard, straightforward. The big difference I want to say here is we do see one less boss than usual. It does look like you decided to go up maybe a Lost Vacuum. I could be wrong there, but maybe you went up a belt. Something went up, or something new was added here. Maybe a Heat Fire energy along with that Speed Lightning energy, but a boss did go down. Normally we see 2 bosses, 2 Serenas, but very, very good list here, which got you 6th place. So let's check out these matchups. Now, your matchups were very interesting. We do see a round 1 loss, and you decided to brush that off your shoulder and go 8 straight wins in phase 1, including taking out 2 Arceus Duraludon lists, which, like I said, it's not unheard of for Lugia to take the W against Arceus Duraludon. It is quite difficult, but you got the job done, so congrats there. We do see in phase 2, with the 8 straight wins, you said, I got the wiggle room to maybe take a loss or 2, and right you were, because you did take 2 losses to get yourself into top 8 with you 2 wins and a tie in phase 2. So congrats there. You did eventually go down to the Reggies in top 8. So congrats on your run. You did a fantastic job. 5th place, now this is the other type of Mew. This is Manilow 621's Mew Vmax. We have ourselves Fusion Strike Mew. And I know what some of you newer players are probably saying, right? Well, yeah, Fusion Strike Mew is known as a Fusion Strike Pokemon. It's a Fusion Strike Pokemon, so it's Fusion Strike Mew. Yes and no. The reason we call this Fusion Strike Mew is because it utilizes Fusion Strike energy with Meloetta. So the main goal here is you're good going first because you're speedy and not a lot of things are going to knock you out going first, but going second, you have a way to take a huge knockout against Vs, which is utilizing Meloetta. So you want to speed through things, get Elisa Sparkle, get the Fusion Strike attached, and you can start taking huge knockouts going first, or going second. So really good here. This is actually a list that we might see more often because it is consistent. It is good going second. Mew Vmaxes usually don't like going second, especially if they're only playing Mew V and Vmax with no Meloetta, because they can't do anything going second, but maybe stall out with a path to the peak. But usually that gets taken care of quite easily. Mew Vmax lists want to go first if they're only playing the DTE. However, this list says, I don't care if I go first or second, you choose. I'm fine either way. I'm either going to get a knockout going second, or I'm going to build an unbreakable board on my first turn. So this is actually a really good list. I really like it. Lost City is seen here for those Reggie matchups, so really like that. We have ourselves an Echoing Horn, so you can possibly get out a nice 2-prizer and then boss it out for a huge KO. Maybe clean up the game from there. Roxanne is a fantastic card to maybe disrupt your opponent a little bit, but other than that, everything else here is extraordinarily standard for Mew Vmax. When it comes to the matchups, very interesting matchups here. Now, we do see 8 straight wins in phase 1 and a loss in round 9, which, you know, that's fine. You were pretty much solid after the 7th win anyway, so, you know, the 1 loss doesn't really hurt you all too much. The interesting matchups that I want to talk about here is you did fight against 2 Arceus Duraludon lists and took the W in phase 1, which is really, really nice. And then in phase 2, you did it again, back to back, especially considering the fact that it was against the same 2 Arceus Duraludon players. You managed to beat them twice, which is really good because that is a hard matchup, especially when you take into consideration that you only play 1 path to the peak, so you know that the Max Miracle attack really came in clutch for you there. The rest of this, I think one of the really cool things is that we're still seeing Zoroarks in late nights. We're seeing Zoroarks still seeing play. Now this isn't like you know, the single prize Zoroarks box. No. This is Zoroark, Hisui and Zoroark Vstar. That went 5-4, so that is actually extremely cool to see. But you did take the win there. You took the win against Reggies, which can be expected because you do play Lost City. When you got into top 8, though, you did take the loss to Evan Campbell, who, funnily enough, you took the tie with in phase 2, so you could both get into top cut just to be immediately knocked out by Evan in top 8. But nonetheless, you did a fantastic job. Congrats on your run. All right, 4th place. Speak of him, he comes. It's Evan Campbell's Lugia Vstar with Pikachu Vmax. Now, we saw 2 Lugia Vstar lists already, right? And there wasn't like a lot of innovation there. Now, you can play Lugia as is, the way that you see some of these top players playing it, and still do quite successful. But then you have some players bringing innovation to Lugia Vstar and pairing it with some unlikely Pokemon. Now, we've seen, you know, Lugia with Flying Pikachu before. That's not extraordinarily unheard of, but what I really like here is the innovation of adding like the Drapion V, the Burnett. You're taking some of those techs that we see in other Lugia V-Star lists and putting them into like a mutated version that works because you placed 4th. So this is a very interesting list, not something that you really expect to see. You expect to see Lugia V-Star, but you don't expect it to be paired with the Flying Pikachu, and Flying Pikachu is a really good card, especially in this format, because Lost Zone decks are usually playing only basic Pokemon, and Pikachu can block that quite easily. It also helps you in the Reggie matchup, which is really, really nice as well. The Drapion V, now, Mew is known to be really good in the Lugia matchup. It can kind of win those out normally, but Drapion V can help you even the odds a little bit for their speed. So really nice inclusion there. I really like this list, so let's go ahead and check out the matchups here. All right, Evan's matchups were very, very interesting. We see a lot, and I mean a lot, of Lugia mirrors. Now, if this was an open list, I'm sure a lot of these Lugia mirrors wouldn't think twice to put down their Dunsparce because they know that maybe the Raikou is possibly going to see some play. But a lot of Lugia's backup attackers are basic Pokemon as well. You could think of cards like the Charizard, the Radiant Charizard, the Amazing Rare Raikou. Yveltal can kind of beat that Pikachu up a little bit, but Evan does play 2 big Parasol, which can stop the Yveltal from doing Yveltal things. So really interesting here. Lots and lots of Lugia mirrors. Taking the W against Palkia as well, which, you know, I'm sure they weren't expecting to see a flying Pikachu, so very nice there. So phase 2, you did take a win, 1 loss, and then won the last 2 until you tied against Manilow, to then play Manilow again in the top 8, where you, in the top 4, met with Matt Vandersluis and lost to Arceus Duraludon, which it did look like you had a little bit of a struggle against Arceus Duraludon. Hey, that happens. Arceus Duraludon is pretty much built to stop these types of lists to begin with, but when you take the win there, it really does feel good. But congratulations to Evan Campbell for their amazing run. Third place, I'm actually very happy to see this. This is Christian Fontenot's Reggies, and I'm very, very, very happy to see Reggies in a top 3 placement. It's one of my favorite decks, but the other thing that makes me happy is the big difference between this and a lot of other Reggie lists. So this Reggie list said, you know what? We're not going to play like the 3 to 4 paths. We don't need those. We're going to play Pokestop and Stormy Mountains. So that way when we attack with Regieleki, since it is one of your main attackers in most matchups, when it gets knocked out, you know that you don't have to waste a resource like a Quick Ball, an Ultra Ball, or a Capture Energy to go get another Regieleki. Really awesome inclusion there. Pokestop is also a really nice card too, because you can discard the top 3 cards of your deck, and if any of them are items, put them in your hand. This is a great way to put energy cards into the discard. This is a great way to get really important key cards, something like Air Balloon or Choice Belt or even Ordinary Rod, to put Reggie's back into the list. So I really, really enjoy this list, and let's check out the matchups because I'm very curious to see. Now, I'm shocked. This is actually very, very interesting. You did go to the minimum 6-2-1 to get into phase 2. However, you played against 4 Mew Vmaxes in phase 1, which is insane to think about because they play things like Lost City to prevent Reggies from going crazy turbo. You played against an Arceus Duraludon, took the tie, but played it again in phase 2 and took the W. So even though you only play the 2 path, you want to hold those for extremely crucial moments, and you found that extremely crucial moment, it seems. So really, really interesting. I don't know what Liverpool was playing for you to take the loss in round 7. I'll probably look into that here in a little while, but that other deck did seem to give you a problem, and you did take a loss to Lugia Vstar. That does happen sometimes. But the rest of it just seemed like you were on a streak, a big streak. Taking a tie against the Reggies, that could have either went to time, or you guys were friends and decided to take the ID because you knew if you won the next 2, you were safe for top cut. And you called correctly because you made it to top cut. You got in 8th place. You played, or in top 8, you played against Owen Dalgar, where you played against Lugia Vstar, took the big W there. But then the one deck you saw the absolute most in phase 1 came and became your nightmare in top 4, took the W, Mew Vmax. So playing against 6 Mews and winning 5 of those, honestly, congratulations. That is huge. So really good job there. Next up, second place, Tomo's 1713 Mew Vmax. This is known as Path Mew, kind of. Now, there's an interesting piece here because you can look at this list and be like, yeah, this looks like standard like Mew Vmax with the double turbo energy, until you double take on that Crystal Cave, right? Crystal Cave is not a card that you see a Mew Vmax played like ever. However, it seems like Tomo understands the format. They know that a nightmare matchup could be Drapion with a Sky Seal Stone, and usually in those kinds of lists, they're going to probably take a knockout on a Genesect somehow, and if it's a Lost Zone deck, it's going to be through Sableye. So how do you stop that? Well, honestly, the best way to do it is if you get hit with the Genesect, you can switch card, heal 30, then put down Crystal Cave to heal another 30 and get yourself out of Sableye range if the Crystal Cave sticks, because you're going to constantly heal 30 off that Genesect. So even when they do get to the point where they can play that Sableye, they're not just easily going to take out that Genesect anymore. So I really like that inclusion of Crystal Cave. It's not something you've ever seen. It must have done wonders for Tomo because they got all the way up to second place. So let's check out the matchups. Matchups were really, really cool here. Now, it seems like you had a really interesting, very well-balanced spread of different decks to play against. Nothing too crazy to talk about here against your matchups, except for maybe the finals and your round 8 match against Giratina Lost Zone. That's a very interesting matchup because Giratina can hit pretty hard, but also has an instant knockout V-Star attack, which you do play a copy of Big Parasol, but I have known Giratina decks to play something like the Lost Vacuum to get rid of Parasol so they can still utilize their V-Star attack. So really interesting. You took a big W there. You probably were just outspeeding, outpacing as fast as possible. So really great job there. You had a really fantastic run, just literally dropped 2 games. You dropped 1 game between phases 1 and 2, just on a complete master streak here until the finals, where you played against Matt Vanderslewis's Arceus Duraludon. And do I really have to like give an introduction there? It is Matt Vanderslewis's Arceus Duraludon with Pikachu Vmax. Yeah, that's where I thought a lot of people were gonna be like, whoa, 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 what is this? Now, when I say Arceus Duraludon, you usually think to yourself, okay, you play Arceus, you play Duraludon. You know, you have hands, you wear gloves. It's just, they're 2 things that go together quite well, like peanut butter and jelly. But another really good ingredient on peanut butter and jelly is fluff, right? Or even honey. And that's where Flying Pikachu is. He's the honey to the peanut butter and jelly here. It's just something that you wouldn't expect, but is still so good when it comes to the partnership between Arceus and Duraludon, because like the big problem for Duraludon is those single prize decks like Rayquaza Lost Zone box. It can swing over Duraludon all day long. Very specific Reggies that play a good amount of those Path to the Peaks can swing over the Duraludon Vmax, and because they play Path, they ignore the Skyscraper. So that's where Flying Pikachu can come in and get wins where you might get losses. Flying Pikachu is known to have the Max Balloon attack, which Max Balloon states that you do 160 damage, 140 with a double turbo, and you can't be hurt by basic Pokemon. That's it. Like you just don't get hurt by basic Pokemon. It's actually really clutch, and especially in something like a Reggie matchup or something like a Lost Zone box Rayquaza matchup, Flying Pikachu is just your main card there. You just try to get it out as fast as possible, take a huge hit, and win from there. You don't put anything else down. You just keep attacking until the game is over. And that is a really good inclusion to Arceus Duraludon. I love it. Everything else here seems extremely standard for Arceus Duraludon, except for maybe 2 Temple of Sinnoh. It's not unheard of for Arceus Duraludon to play Temple of Sinnoh. Now, a lot of Arceus Duraludon decks do play Lost City in lieu of Temple of Sinnoh sometimes, but deciding 2 Temple of Sinnoh here must have worked pretty nice considering what the meta is looking like. And the other big card here is Professor's Research. Not a lot of Arceus Duraludon decks play a copy of Professor's Research. They usually play 4 Marnie, 4 Choruses, but opting to Kata Marnie for a Research makes a lot of sense because it is a deck that is known to brick from time to time, and maybe that Research gets you out of those funky situations. So I really like this list, and let's check out the matchups. So matchups here were really, really interesting. We don't know what round 1 was up against, but Seviper or Superior was round 2, big W there. Reggies, huge W. That's where Flying Pikachu really comes in clutch, everybody. 2 Lugia matchups. Again, Duraludon does block things, but Pikachu also hits for weakness, so that is very nice there. Did take a loss to Mew, but Arceus Pikachu took the W there, and another 2 Reggie decks were played against in round 8 and 9, and you took the W there, and that just goes to show how good Pikachu can be in those matchups. Now, I didn't see a single loss box deck for you here, but those Reggies really seem to prove that the Pikachu works, so I'm very, very happy to see that. Phase 2 took a loss, but then took 2 ties and 2 wins, getting you into Top Cut, where you played against 2 Lugia Vstar lists, one being Christian Cruz in top 8, and Evan Campbell in top 4, where you eventually did take the win in the finals against Mew Vmax. So that is the top 8 list from Late Night 74. I hope you all enjoyed the top 8 lists and are looking forward to Late Night 76's review. I sure am, because things are already getting crazy for Late Night. It's just decks, innovations, and things you just don't expect to see are starting to really hit the limelight here, and I'm very happy about it. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. It really helps out, and we appreciate it. So thank you guys for watching, and until Late Night 76, I will see you guys next time.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Atlas Collectibles, the best place to buy any trading card game product online. Visit atlastcg.com, and at the checkout screen, make sure to use code TSS12 to save an unbeatable 12% off your entire order. Atlas Collectibles will ship your product anywhere in the world, so make sure you're taking advantage of the 12% savings with TSS12. And if Pokemon is not your thing, don't worry. Go to atlastcg.com and see all the other amazing trading card game products they have there to offer.
The Shuffle Squad is partnered with PTCGO Store to provide our community with the best access to Pokemon TCG codes. They have codes available 24/7, instant email delivery, and you can save 5% off by using code TSS5. If you're a YouTube member or Patreon supporter, you'll have access to a special code that gets you 10% off. So what are you waiting for? Use code TSS5 today and save 5% on your next order of codes on any codes available at ptcgostore.com.
Are you trying to be the best like no one ever was? Now is your time. Head on over to Metafy.gg and search out all our amazing Pokemon TCG coaches where you can book all sorts of training plans ranging from deck help to full season sessions with your favorite coach. What a great way to up your game. Check out Metafy.gg in the description below and take your game to the next level. Challenge yourself against trainers from around the world to compete for the biggest online prizing yet.
Are you ready for an unbelievable tournament unlike anything else you've ever seen before? The Shuffle Squad is proud to announce our newest tournament series, the Late Night Events, with an amazing grand prize that's bound to have you excited.
Players can compete via play.limitless.tcg.com's online tournament platform every Tuesday to get a chance to earn weekly prizes. And every week, your placement in the tournament is tallied by points based on your best finishes to earn your rank for the Late Night Invitational event.
The series will be conducted starting February 7th of 2023 and carry all the way through to the Invitational on July 9th of 2023, where the top players will be rewarded the grand prizing.
And the grand prize is a signed jersey and photo op with the entire Shuffle Squad, as well as a fully paid trip to the Pokemon World Championships in Yokohama, Japan. This includes hotel and airfare, whether you're a player or a spectator.
Don't forget to check out all the live coverage on our YouTube and Twitch channel of the top cuts of these events for every week. And subscribe so you can get notified where to watch the Late Night Events Invitational brought to you by the Shuffle Squad. Now get out there and start winning. We'll see you in Japan.